right, y'all. Good evening. Happy Monday. It's your boy Kevin Thornton, and you have tuned in to the Wellness Architect Show. Today is Monday, November 5th, 2018. I have an amazing show for you today. We're going to talk about healing. We're going to talk about this workshop this young lady is doing. Let me tell you how this happens. I was at Arizona's and I saw her. She was eating with one of her friends, and I stopped and we had a conversation. And we ended up talking, and we talked for a good minute. And I ended up saying some positive words to her friend. They ended up started crying, and so it got to the point. She was like, "What do you do?" And I told her, I said, "I'm a life coach," and she said that she was the one too. And she said we definitely had to exchange information so we could connect, and maybe we could do some stuff together. I said, "Cool." I said, "I got a show," and so she said, "Okay." So everything has to happen at the right time and the due time. I never forgot the information of hers. I instantly friended her on social media. She would like certain pictures, and she was like, we need to connect. And I said, we do. But I said, but at the time, I was like, gotta be at the right time, So then I was on social media, and I saw her post about her 6-week healing seminar that she's having. I said, okay, this is the right time. This is the time for us to go and talk about it, because it was so funny that I saw that post at that time, because I just had a conversation about the fact that we need to heal. Women need to heal, but also the men need to heal. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that, I said, I got to go ahead. I just instantly sent you a message, said, I got to have you on my show. And you were like, okay. And you was like trying to find it. I was like, when is it, where it's going to be? I said, I'm taking all worries, and your kids could come and they could sit on the side, but you gonna be here. So I'm honored today to have Ms. Chablis on the show. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Well, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it, and I do agree. A lot of the things that we go through in life, it's all on God's timing. Mm-hmm. Our time isn't our timing, but it's definitely God's timing. How we definitely met was almost 9 months ago, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where we kind of kept in contact. Like I saw what you would post on in social media, and you would see what I would post on social media. But it just again about the timing.
Right.
But I again want to thank you for inviting me. I truly appreciate it. It was definitely at a time in my life where I was ready to branch out and really start connecting with, more people. And I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to do that.
No problem. So just tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how you get to this point right here.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to again introduce myself. My name is Chablis. I am an author, life coach, transformational coach, mother of 3 beautiful children, an entrepreneur, and it is my goal, my mission, to see women healed and whole. There are so many of us that are going from relationship to relationship, still carrying a lot of the baggages from previous relationships, not just relationships, but trauma from childhood,
Absolutely.
childhood wounds. We're walking around rejected, abandonment. We're walking around just wounded. So I'm speaking from a place of experience, because I've gone through the death of a spouse at the age of 30. I was a widow, and I've also experienced the divorce. And in addition to that, I also have experienced, childhood trauma, some childhood wounds, instability at a young age. I've also gone through rejection and abandonment. So now it's my mission, as I've healed myself, to go out here and now do the same thing to help other women heal and be whole, to really go out here and be who God created them to be.
Excellent. And I thought this on the way here, and probably applies to you as well, that the opportunities that's coming our ways at this point came when he felt that it was ready for us. That we, as we I think a lot of times people look at people who are coaches, whether it's a life coach, health coach, transformational coach, or a psychologist, that they have everything in order. When we know we all still need coaching. We all still have to do work in progress. And so it was, it's some things that, in order for us to be the best at what we could do, and your gift is healing. You got to make sure you heal first.
Absolutely.
Before you could try to heal somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that's now that you are at your point and you still constantly work on yourself, opportunities is coming your way. So that's how I see it. So.
No, I totally agree with that, because that was a struggle that I had with myself. Like, this has been something that has been in my belly for a while. I've been doing coaching for a while too, but I'm shifting directions. Before it was more accountability. Now it's going in towards the direction of transformational. But it was one of those things I questioned, like, well, how can I heal or teach someone else to heal, or that they need healing, if I too internally are still needing my own healing? But what someone had said to me is, when you start to help other people, you're also helping yourself. Like, I don't have to be perfect in what it is that I'm doing. But I can still continue to grow, because again, we're going to attract the type of people that are where we are at that level.
Absolutely.
So right now I could be at a level 2. I'm only going to coach a level 1 person. And as I continue to grow, and my level increases, then I'll heal or teach other people who, now I'm a 5. Now I can teach the 4s and the 3s and the 2s.
Right.
So I stopped using that mindset that, I'm not ready, because that to me was a setback, or it was what was holding me up. You're never going to be totally ready to do anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to just kind of say, you know what, I'm going to go out here and do it, and my tribe is going to come to me.
I agree. So what made you transition from accountability to healing?
Because again, it was one of those things. Again, you say we attract certain things to us, and those were the type of people that were drawn to me or coming to me: the wounded, the broken, those that needed that healing. So it was like, okay, I want you to go from broken to healed, or wounded to whole. There's a transformation that occurs in that process. Whereas before, when I was just doing accountability, I'm just calling, making sure, did you do this, that, and the other? Have you accomplished your goals that you were setting out to accomplish, and things like that? So now it became more of, the way that my coaching style changed. It was more or less out of need, out of necessity, versus the people that were, coming to me.
Okay. So why is it so important to you to really want to coach the women to be healed?
I think I can relate more to the women because, one, I am a woman, and 2, because my experiences qualified me. I've gone through quite a bit in my 42-year journey in life, and I just have a passion, just for the women, not just for the women, but for the single women. Now, I don't want to exclude anybody, but I just definitely have a soft spot for, the single moms, the single women, the divorced, the widowed, to really take what it was that they've gone through and transform those obstacles and turn them into opportunities. So it was just one of those things where that's just who I've been drawn to, is the women. I've had men come, well, how come you don't coach men? That's just not that's not my arena.
And that's my passion. And so I think, like you said, I will coach a woman, and I have, but I can really understand the plight of a black man. And I just think a lot of times, like, you feel the women need to be healed, the men definitely need to be healed. And, because how can we be the leaders that we're supposed to be leading if we're not willing to, heal ourselves and, and stop, asking for permission to be leaders and just be the leader that we're supposed to be. So, my question to you is, for the ladies that are out there that go from relationship to relationship, but never take the time to evaluate and assess what happened in the previous relationship. What are they supposed to learn from that? What is it about them and their thoughts and their actions that they're attracting these type of guys to them? What do you say to them?
What I would say to them is definitely, before you even get into the next relationship, just taking a moment out to do you, or just to embrace you as a person. I know a lot of times as women, especially those that are in serial relationships, like one relationship after the next relationship after the next, when do you have time to evaluate, or when do you have time to actually think about the lessons that you were supposed to learn in these previous relationships? I think a lot of times we as women too are mirror, or not even as women, just people in general, we are mirror images of our inner selves. And if you evaluate the type of relationships that are attracting to you, or that you're attracting, are they broken? I hear a lot of women say, "Oh, I want a whole man," but yet, are you a whole woman?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to really start evaluating. You want to be who it is that you're attracting.
Right.
So if you continuously attract broken men, then you need to evaluate internally, like, why am I attracting these broken men? What am I doing? What is it about me that I need to really deal with so that I can stop attracting these broken men?
Right.
That was one of the things that I had to deal with. And I'll be completely transparent and say, from the time I was 15 up until I divorced at 35, I had been in a relationship. They were long-term relationships, one relationship after the next. I unpacked. I didn't unpack. That was the problem. I went from one situation to another situation to another situation, and each time I carried, the wounds from, the death of my spouse. I carried that into my marriage. I carried childhood wounds into the relationships. And unfortunately, it took the divorce for me to really sit down to evaluate, like, what am I doing? The very things that I thought I was attracting, were commonalities, were actually fragments of my soul, of my inner me. And this is what I was putting out there, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. But until I really, like I said, going through that whole divorce process made me realize that I needed to just do me.
Right.
And I was intentional about that. I've been single since 2013. And it was with the intent that I'm not going to get into another relationship without healing myself internally.
Right.
I don't want to go into another relationship carrying the same wounds, carrying the same baggage. So I was intentional about being single and embracing that me time.
Right.
So that's what I want to communicate to other women. Taking that time to yourself. Don't just get into another relationship out of loneliness or thinking that you need a companion, because you really don't. You have to learn to be by yourself, enjoy your own space.
Right.
You have to learn to enjoy your space before you can enjoy somebody else in your space.
Right.
So,
and you gotta not only enjoy your space, but if you don't take the time to understand who you are and understand what you need to feel loved, and because I was telling the guys, I said it goes both ways. I said I think everyone should read the 5 love languages.
Oh yes, Gary Chapman.
Everybody needs to do it, because that way it's going to teach you, your love language and how you receive love. And then, if you have a spouse, if you have, even do with your friends.
Yes.
Figure out what their love language is. So then, therefore, you could learn. That could be the simplest way to learn how to give love is to do with your friends. Okay, if my friends are affirmation, that's not my strength, because I'm acts of service. I have to learn to give affirmations to that person in order for them to receive the love that I'm trying to give to them. Because if I just give them acts of service, they're not going to receive that.
Right.
And so, but if you don't know what your love language is, and you don't know how to love receive love, how can you tell this guy how to love you. And so that's all part of the work that you have to do. But like you said, I think a lot of times they'll say, I'm gonna be single and do some me time, and they might give themselves 2 weeks and say, I'm tired of being by myself. I need to go on a date. I need to do this, and they'll stop it, and they stop the process of the learning. Why?
Yes, it's there. One, it's again, they don't know how to date themselves, and again, it's they are requiring someone else to pour into them when they need to really learn to pour into themselves. So when they find themselves after 2 weeks, they're looking for someone else to fill their cups. But I don't really think that there's a time frame, but I don't think that 2 weeks is enough time either. You know what I mean? I think you really and truly have to take the time, but like I said, there's no time frame on how long that process is, but you have to make sure that when it's meaningful. You know what I mean? Like you're actually pouring back into yourself. We all talk about self-love this, self-love that. Self-love isn't necessarily meaning going out to get a manicure and a pedicure.
Right.
Or making sure that you have your hair done or your makeup. That's not the epitome of self-love.
Right.
Self-love is that inner healing. Just taking some time out to kind of breathe, take in the sights, learn about who you are, your likes and your dislikes. Journal in that timing. You know what I mean? Read a nice book. I hear women all the time, I read all of the time. Are you reading just to read the pages in the book, or are you reading to retain it? And not only are you retaining it, but are you applying what it is that you're reading?
Right.
So it's a process that people don't want to embrace, and they feel like they need to skip steps. But when you're doing inner healing, or when you're just trying to embrace life, you can't skip steps.
Do you think people fear that they don't want to do the inner healing because they know it's going to be kind of painful?
I don't necessarily think you got people out here that don't even think that they need inner healing. They're in denial that they need healing. I've healed. I've dealt with that breakup. But when you really look about, like, again, that's a good way to gauge it based off of the type of relationships that you're attracting. What are these types of, and I'm not talking about romantic relationships either. I'm talking just relationships in general. We are mirror images of the relationships that we attract.
Right.
What is it looking like? What are the people that are drawn to you? What do they look like? Are they broken? Are they wounded? Are they healed and whole? You know what I mean? So that kind of is a big gauge in where you are in your process, in the inner healing process.
So what if I had some people send me some messages, and one of the questions they had is, how do they, if they're in a relationship, whether they're in a long-term relationship or they're married, how can they begin to do the work when they feel like the spouse or the boyfriend has taken their self-esteem away from them?
That's a good question. It's a tough question too. Again, we put so much, I'm not going to say pressure, but we put so much focus on someone else filling our cup, making us feel whole, that our confidence is rooted in somebody else. But our confidence isn't rooted in somebody else. Our confidence is rooted internally.
Right.
So again, if you're dealing with issues or things internally, naturally, again, who is it that you're attracting? You're attracting somebody who, if you're not strong enough, this person can say whatever they're going to say about you, and it's going to make you feel a certain type of way. That again should be a trigger.
Right.
That again should be one of those things that you could say, okay, wait, why is it that I'm again in relationships with people who vocally abuse me or verbally talk down to me? Again, because you have not healed again within yourself, where you're attracting people that belittle you, that talk down to you. Um, until you learn to heal those places, those fragmented places, you're going to continue to draw people to you that have that power over you.
So, what speak to the women who attract these men, and they fear setting the boundaries and expectations of what they will and will not accept from these men, and fear if they do that they will lose that dude.
Yeah, but you just said it. Key word was boundaries. And if you have fear of losing that person, that in itself is a problem. Why would you want to be attracted to or be with someone who verbally abuses you, who makes you feel less than a woman, or taps on your self-confidence? Again, that's something that needs to be worked on internally. When you're doing that whole inner healing piece, you're releasing yourself, you're building back up your confidence. So again, you won't necessarily be attracted to those same type of people, or those people won't be attracted to you. You'll have more courage, you'll have more confidence, so you won't accept anybody who's just going to come and belittle you or talk down to you or make you feel a certain type of way. And again, it will come with, you're going to set those boundaries, you're going to set standards. You're going to, once you working on your inner me, your inner healing, it's like you're setting you're increasing your value.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're no longer accepting what somebody's saying to you, because now your confidence is growing, your confidence is increasing, your value and your worth is increasing when you start working on you from the inside. You're not going to want to stay in those kind of relationships. You're not going to want to deal with those type of men that are going to talk to you any type of way.
Right.
And even with the women who are married, there was this book I had read some years ago. It was called Winning Him Without Words. And it talked about how you taking your focus off of the marriage or the relationship, and you're focusing more on you. And as you are focusing more on you, and you start doing things that are building your self-esteem back up, whether it be instead of being combative or being that contentious woman, when he says something to you, you respond differently. Or when you're out, if he's used to you being home all of the time, and you changing up your habits, you start getting dressed up and you start going out, and he's questioning, like, okay, well, what is she doing? Where is she going? And I see her confidence is changing. He's more inclined to be attracted to that. He's more inclined to be attracted to the person that you're becoming. He's seeing some things that are happening that are different. And that's what I tell a couple of the people that I work with too as clients, like, women who are going through things, within their marriage, take the focus off your marriage and put the focus more on you, and start increasing your self-esteem, your self-worth, your value, and watch the dynamics of your relationship change.
Right.
And it works.
So, yeah, I noticed that too, and especially, and then it forces the men, either they're going to change how they do things, or they just realize they might end up losing that person. Because especially if you all of a sudden started exercising and you start to lose weight and you start to get that old shape back like you used to, then they gonna be like, what you doing this for?
Right.
Why you doing this? And so then their insecurities jump in, because now they trying to figure out, cause you moving and shaking differently than you used to. So now it's like, okay, is this some other dude? What's going on? I need to step my game back up.
Right.
But if you just leave it, status quo, and you don't know, he feels that he got you, and he don't have to put the work in no longer. What can you do? Because you're allowing him just to take you for granted.
Right.
And you gotta show him, I'm still that girl, and I can do this and that, and somebody's still gonna want me. So if you're not gonna give me the attention, the love that I want, somebody else will.
Absolutely. But it was, again, one of those things, you got to build yourself up. You can't expect another person to build you up. Those things are temporary.
Right.
You know, somebody could say, oh, you're beautiful today, but if you internally don't feel beautiful, or if you just, just don't feel confident, they can tell you today blue in the face. But you have to convince yourself by working on yourself.
Right. So what do you say to the women that, I lost my train of thought, but they want to stay with the man, but they feel that they've been doing the work and they feel they have elevated themselves to a higher level, and the boyfriend or the husband is not trying to be his best self, so they're not on the same level no more. But she still loves the guy, but they're at different crossroads. What do you say to that?
Communication. Communication is the key. You have to verbally express what it is that you're desiring. You can communicate to him and say, listen, I've worked on me. I think now it's time that you work on you. And sometimes, in most cases, well, I'm not going to say most cases, but oftentimes, a man will see a woman getting herself together, and out of the betterment for the relationship, he may be more inclined to get himself together. And then, so it may not be where she has to play catch up. It's a matter of now the communication will change and say, you know what, let's do this together. Let's change this together. But if there's situations where people sometimes outgrow each other, I'm never an advocate for divorce or anything like that. So I would never tell somebody to get a divorce. But I do know in some relationships, people do outgrow each other, but you have to communicate. Communicate, where is this relationship going? What are you trying, what is the outcome of the relationship? Yes, I've gotten myself together. I'm working on me. I need you to work on you. And if you're not going to work on you, what are we going to do? So
Right.
it's a communication thing. People have to learn to communicate. Like, it is the biggest thing in a relationship that people fail at, and that's communication.
I agree. So what do you say to women who has a pathology where their mother controlled their father, their grandmother controlled their grandfather, so then they start to attract those type of men to where they can control them, but it doesn't, but the relationship doesn't work because they control all the time, but then when it's time for them to say, I need you to step up, it's too late because they've been used to allowing you to control it. What do you say? Because it's a lot of women out there that in that predicament. They say they want a man, a real man, but then they can't release the control issue.
That's heavy on two different accounts. One, we're dealing with a generational thing. I'm going to say thing. Generational curse. Because if your mama did it, your grandmama did it, auntie and cousins do it, that's a generational thing that somebody needs to break. You know what I mean? Of wanting to be that controlling person. And then you're talking about that whole Jezebel spirit. You know what I mean? That is a controlling woman who feels like she has to be in control of everything. But what does that look like? What does that look like in the end? You can control the situation, but then you're expecting this man at some point to be that man. How can he be that man if he's used to you doing everything for him, and now you want him to deviate from that? It's tough. That's tough. But that's a generational thing, and in order to really change the dynamics of that, she's going to have to change herself first. She's going to have to change the way she's doing things, and do them differently, and allow him to lead so that he can be that leader. But she has to kind of take a step back and allow him to do, his role or to be that leader in the household. She's gonna have to take a step back. And,
Okay.
wow, that's a heavy question right there. So that's a loaded.
It is because I see it a lot. I see it a lot, and the question, that I ask, do you want to be in control or you don't want to be in control? If you want to be in control, you want to control everything all the time, then you have to understand you have to be willing to be. There's no off days.
Yeah.
Because once you create this way of life for this guy that he doesn't have to be in control, he doesn't have to really do anything because you're going to do everything because you want it done your way. You can't have an off day.
Right. That's true.
You can't say, okay, I don't feel like being in control of that. I don't feel like taking the lead. I need him to take the lead. And he like, what you want me to do? Because you do everything, And so what happens to the women that are now tired of trying to take, being the lead, and they want this man to step up, and he doesn't step up?
I mean, again, that's tough because you kind of created the situation. You created it. How do you fix it?
Right.
I mean, it goes right back to, again, the communication, and then with the communication, allowing him to do it. I've seen women countless times say that they want the man, doing all of the controlling, then all of a sudden they get tired, they're burnt out, they're worn out, they don't want to lead anymore, and then they stop. Then they're telling him that this is what he needs to do, but this is how the relationship develops. How do you do that? Like,
right.
How do you go from being the leader and to now you having to learn to be submissive?
Right.
It's a challenge, but I think the challenge, again, can be dealt with through communication, but not only communication, but relinquishing that control, allowing him to really do what you're asking him to do, and relinquishing the timing.
But then too, what if in certain situations we as men and women don't we rush into the relationships, we rush into the sex, that we get blinded by the truth of who she is or who he is, because a lot of times the writing's on the wall of who that person is. So let's say you that type of woman that likes to be in control. If you dating this guy, if you just watch him, you could tell if he's the type of guy that's more passive, that needs somebody to take charge. Whether, he's a mama's boy that his mother runs everything with him.
Right.
If you see that, do you know that's going to be your role? You can't think anything, it could be anything no other different if you got a guy who's a mother's. Now, there are guys who mama's boys, but the mothers can't run them.
Right.
But then there are mama boys that the mother runs the show for them, and they need that. So what they usually do, like women, we attract what we need or what we want at that particular time. So a lot of times those mama boys attract women who's going to remind them of their mother, and it's going to do and take the role of what the mother did. So the question you have to ask yourself as the woman, do I want to play that role?
Right. Right.
But a lot of times we such in a rush to get married, we in such a rush to be in a relationship, in such a rush to be loved, that we move so fast that we don't really take the time to really get to really learn the person and really assess the person and understand, okay, no, this is who he is. Can I deal with this?
Right.
Do I want to play this role for this guy forever?
And then that goes back to my question, with the whole, how soon is too soon to be in a relationship or to make it official, or to even get married? Like how long does a person need to be together before you say we're going to get married?
You know what? I think it depends on the relationship and the conversations that you have. I think sometimes we don't have the necessary conversations. We just we just into the whole love thing, and then once we start having sex, then we just blinded because the sex is good. We're not concerned about having the necessary conversations that
Right.
need to be said.
Right.
So like my parents, well, that's a different day and the time too. But they dated for 6 months, proposed after 6 months, and married within a year. Been married 48 years. But when I talked to him about it, I talked to both of them about it. They said they had the hard conversations. He said we had fun, we enjoy each other, but we had the tough conversations. And so how are we gonna do our finances? How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do that? And he said as much as I loved your mother, if we couldn't come to agreement on those things, we couldn't get married.
Right. See, and it goes right back again to the
Conversation.
communication,
Yeah.
conversations that we aren't having.
Right.
We aren't having the conversations that we should. Those are the important conversations that we should. Not what time are we going to eat or where we going to eat at.
Right.
Those are the conversations that as couples need to be had. What's going to happen when we get to a rough patch? How are we going to handle it? How are we going to handle, is divorce even going to be an option for us? Like, these are the conversations that need to be had prior to. And I give you my own experience. We didn't have those conversations. We didn't have the conversation of, what's going to happen when we hit the rough patches in the relationship? What's going to happen when financially we're in tight spaces? So ultimately, those, I think, the conversations that are important like that are what builds the roots and builds the foundation for those relationships. So when they aren't had, or when we don't have those conversations, we aren't planting the roots deep enough. So when the storms of life do come, when the financial issues arise, when health issues come along, whatever tough situations that couple may be facing in that relationship, within the marriage, their roots weren't dug deep enough. So the first storm that came around, it wiped it out.
Absolutely.
Because again, those types of conversations, those tough conversations weren't had.
Do you think, from a woman's perspective, that we rush into the relationship and not really build a solid friendship?
Yeah, that's part of the problem right there. We are, like you said, quick to get into the relationships, and I'll use myself as an example again. At the age of 30, I was a widow with 2 children. So my thing was, who's going to want me? Who's going to want to date a woman who's already been married before, who has 2 children? So the first relationship that came along, or the first man that kind of said the sweet nothings to me or really pursued me, that's what I was drawn to. You know what I mean? But again, there was no friendship. We didn't develop the friendship. We didn't solidify that relationship. We didn't plant the roots deep enough. So when it came down to it, it wasn't strong enough.
Right.
But forming that friendship first is very important. It's very important because, again, within that friendship, or the time that you're bonding, or you're getting to know this person, you're getting to know the ins and outs, the goods, the bads, the highs and the lows, and it's in that friendship that time that you can say whether or not you don't want to deal with this person. It's not somebody I look forward to spending the rest of my life with. His habits are horrible, her habits are horrible, she don't clean the way I want her to clean. You would see all of these things if you really got to know this person first, if you got to develop that friendship first before you said, you know what, I'm going to make this woman my wife, or I'm going to make this man my husband. Forming that friendship, I think, is very important, and it builds, again, those roots that are needed. So when things arise later on down the line, you have that strong foundation.
Right. I agree. I completely agree. So What? Okay, so for the single women who come to you and say that they have their issue is that black men have a hard time, are intimidated by strong black women.
But what does that mean? That kind of that just sometimes when I hear that, not to say that it rubs me the wrong way, but what does that mean? Like being intimidated, does that have to do with your status? Financially, emotionally, like what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I never that to me again. That's another one of those loaded questions.
Do you think? Okay, I'm going hold that thought. I'm gonna follow up with this. Do you think it's a narrative they use to make themselves feel better about themselves that they that the men leave because I could say to make me feel better about myself, I'm gonna say they just can't handle me, a strong black woman like myself.
But what does a strong black woman look like, though? I mean, that's I guess where I get, bothered because what does that look like? Like, if a man is intimidated by what? Her success? Is he intimidated by the way she comes across? I mean, is it her attitude that makes it, you know what I mean? Like, what is that?
Right.
That makes it feel like, or that man feel intimidated by her, or what is it about her that comes across as being that strong black woman?
Mm-hmm.
Is she really that strong black woman?
Right.
Deep down, I mean, really?
Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes it's superficial.
Right.
Like, what is she covering?
Right.
What is she hiding?
Mm-hmm.
With the attitude, or so is she really a strong black woman?
Or is that a protective?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So again, if it's protective, it really isn't true.
Right.
Because she's using it as a defense mechanism.
Exactly.
She's using it as a way to protect herself. So again, when I hear they're intimidated by a strong black woman, are they intimidated by a strong black woman?
Right.
So that I don't know. Anytime I ever heard anybody say that, I always get like, ugh, what does that mean?
Yeah, cause we was talking about that as guys, and we were like, when my buddy said that, he asked a woman, "What do you mean? What is your definition of a strong black woman?" And it didn't really make sense to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "That's not a strong black woman. That's just you being a woman." He said, "I just need y'all to help us understand what you mean by a strong black woman. Is it because you feel like y'all don't take no mess from us, and we are intimidated by that?"
But why would you be intimidated by a woman who sets boundaries?
Exactly.
Be intimidated by a woman I hate to use that word standards, but she has her likes. Why would that be something for someone to be intimidated by?
Okay. You said standards. So what if you say because that's another thing they like to say a lot of times is, I have standards, and a lot of times I have a hard time meeting men on my level. Now, the question is the level you're talking about, is it on a materialistic perspective about the financial, all of that kind of stuff, or is it standards based on a spiritual perspective?
I mean, it could be on both. I guess it depends on the woman that you're talking to. Because when you're talking about on the spiritual level, it could be. They you can't unequally yoked. People can't be together. Where I may be spiritually in one direction and you may be spiritually going in a different direction. Am I supposed to dummy down my beliefs for the sake of making you feel better or appeasing you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
But what if it's on a materialistic standpoint?
Well, materialistic standpoint, again, then that's something, that inner me thing that may need some work.
Right.
Because you have some women who they look for that security. But is the security rooted in you? Is the security rooted in somebody else?
Right.
You're looking for that security in yourself, or you're looking for it in somebody else? That again is another question that I would want to know from a woman who comes to me and asks me.
So can you elaborate to the listeners when you say is the security rooted in you? What do you mean by that for them?
Meaning that, how secure are you within yourself? Are you looking for someone else to provide for you, or are you providing for yourself? Are you looking for someone else to make you feel secure? Or are you doing it for yourself? Or you know what I mean? Are you putting in the work to make sure that you're secure financially, spiritually, emotionally, mentally? Where are you looking for someone else that may be of that caliber or of that stature to fill those things for you?
Right.
Fulfill those things, not fill those, but to fulfill those things for you. That's what I mean, the security. Like your security blanket. You are you putting that security blanket on yourself, or are you looking for a man to be that security blanket for you?
Right.
That's what I meant.
And then, so what do you say to the women who feel that they need that man to complete them?
I love that one. That one I love. I love that. And again, this goes back to what we were saying initially about learning to be in your own space and in your own presence. You shouldn't really look for anybody to be your security, your blanket. You know what I mean? You got to learn to kind of enjoy your own presence, enjoy being in your own space, and not having to look to someone else to fill those voids or fill that need for you.
So, tell us about your whole 6-week healing conference or seminar.
So it's a 6-week masterclass. It's online. It's a group coaching course where for 6 weeks, every Tuesday, we take a different aspect. We're healing, from relationships. We're healing from trauma from childhood. We're healing from rejection, abandonment. We're healing. What else are we working on? We're working on breaking soul ties from past relationships. We're working on strengthening our confidence. We're healing insecurities. We're getting rid of unforgiveness and bitterness. And it's tough work, again, because remember, this is something that you had said a little while ago, is that a lot of times people don't want to deal with the inner healing because they don't want to deal with the issues. But it's time to deal with the issues. I'll touch on rejection. And being rejected as a child, you don't realize how, if you don't deal with that rejection, how it can move into your adulthood.
Right.
Say, for instance, as a business owner, if you have not dealt with the rejection from your childhood, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, when you're not hearing the right words or you're not getting the clients that you're asking or seeking, and you have not dealt with the rejection, it will make you want to give up the idea of having a business or being an entrepreneur. But if you've dealt with the rejection, those wounds from, your childhood, you wouldn't give up as easily when you hear the words no, or even going out here looking for a job. If you're looking for a career change or you're looking for a new job and you're getting constantly doors slammed in your face, are you going to stop looking for a job? You're not going to stop looking for your job. You're going to continue to look for your job. But if you don't deal with the rejection that you experienced in your past, it's going to halt you. It's going to stop you from really pursuing the things that you want because you really haven't dealt with that rejection piece. So people don't realize that the rejection of your childhood can still transfer with some of the decision making as an adult.
People don't realize a lot of what you're going through now stems from your childhood.
Absolutely.
Whether how you are male or female, how you are in relationships may stem from the fact that your parents got divorced. Because each child handled divorce differently.
Absolutely.
Or how you are in relationships stem from the fact that your father wasn't present.
those are all of the things that we're working on in the Heal Her Masterclass. The
Or-
daddy wounds, the
or-
lack of daddy wounds,
And the mother wounds.
and the mother wounds. Absolutely.
Because you might feel a certain kind of way because how your mother treated you. And so if you don't really deal with these issues, then how can you attract the people that you want into your life and you don't deal with it?
And it's not just the people, but the life. The life you want.
Exactly.
I think, to me, inner healing is a lifestyle change.
It is.
It's a lifestyle change. You're going from, wounded and broken to healed and whole. But people have to embrace that process. It's not easy. They're crying sessions. I mean, because you're going back into those places, where you were wounded, where you were hurt, where you were rejected, where you were abandoned, and you're dealing with it. And not just putting Band-Aids over it anymore.
So I have a question for you.
You do.
So the question is, what about a woman who has dealt with all her brokenness and is seeking a God-fearing man, but she keeps getting crumbs?
She keeps getting crumbs. Ooh, so she's tired of settling for the potential.
Right.
And honestly, I think that's where I'm at too. But I think you just have to be patient. Where are you looking for these men? I know they say he who finds a wife finds a good thing, but are you positioning yourself to be found? Are you a homebody? Are you dating yourself?
Right.
Well, take yourself out on a date sometimes, and you just never know who you may encounter. So again, where is she finding, or where is she looking, and what is she doing?
Because sometimes if you want to attract something different, you gotta go somewhere different. Do something different. So if you on our side of town all the time, you Conyers and not throwing you might want to go downtown or midtown. You might want to go up north to Johns Creek because that's gonna be a whole different type of person.
Right.
And but you never know. You never attract them if you not put yourself in that kind of area.
Absolutely.
To be seen by these type of people. So, she agreed with what you said.
She might have to come out.
Thank you, Miss Kenyatta, for that good question. But I know her, so she's a good woman who's probably looking for that good guy, and she's been working on herself. She went back to school. She's doing all stuff that things she needs to do, and so I think now she's at the point where she wants to get that dude that's in line with who she is and where she's going, and she just gotta stay committed to the process, and like you said, put yourself in places, and that goes with men too.
Yes.
Put yourself in places where you're going to attract the type of person you are, who you are at this moment. Because who I am now and who I was when me and Kenyatta had met, as friends, I'm not the same guy.
Right.
So I can't go that same spot. I can go there, but I'm not going to go there with the expectation that I'm going to find somebody that's going to be where I'm at. That makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense. That's why I'm saying you got to be unconventional in your dating this time. But it's in the places that you're visiting, in the places that coming out of where you just said where you are used to going, doing something different.
Right.
Where is it where would the guy that you're attracting, where would he go?
Exactly.
Where would he visit?
Right.
I was listening to Steven Speaks.
The
relationship
coach.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
He said, he was listing all of the different places that you can go to kind of meet a guy. He was saying Home Depot, Lowe's. Now, those are your typical. Then he said the barbershop. I'm like, what am I going to go to the barbershop for? Especially when I don't have a kid that would need a haircut. But he was just naming different places where, you could find someone else, to date. Church. He was saying a basketball court. Again, I'm not going to go to the basketball court. What am I going to go to the basketball court for? But if I'm trying to, unconventionally date, I may have to pull up to the basketball
Right.
court.
And cause see, a lot of times people say church, and then you gotta understand, church is a place for prayer as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cause a lot of guys know that's what they can find the women at.
Right.
So because they go to church don't mean they gonna be truly a God fearing man.
That's true.
You know, they just there to pray
That's true.
on the single women.
And we're
looking-
not talking about the PRAY. We talking
right,
about the
the
PREY.
exactly. Exactly. So you got to said, even for us, you know, as men, okay, who I am at this moment, what do I need to like? I have to change what I do and where I go, and so you know, so I've been venturing out to other places that I'm not gonna see the same type of people that
Right.
I would normally see, and you guys gotta step out your comfort zone and do all that, you know, because even if where I met you at, that still could be the same type of people that we would see anyway.
Right. True.
So even though it's considered like a fine dining type of place, you still gonna attract the same type of male or female there. So it's like, okay, maybe I need to go somewhere else
Right.
outside of that. And so I just think, you know, I think we get too comfortable in where we go and think we're gonna find something different by going to the same places.
Yes, and that's not even the case.
No. Oh, so she's really enjoying what you're saying to her right now.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So, but the thing, what else would they learn from you during this whole master class?
Like I said, we'll be working on embracing the various changes, but not only embracing the changes, but also increasing our not increasing, but working on our self-confidence, our self-esteem, learning to just embrace the wounds, not just put a Band-Aid over them
Right.
anymore, but really embracing who we are. You know what I mean? And start really talking about it. You know, to me, talking is a way of realizing that I'm not the only one going through things.
Right.
You know, we get to the point, especially us in our community too, where mental health, emotional health, inner healing, certain things like that, they're not talked about enough. And so we're walking around here wounded and broken because we don't know how to express what it is that we're going through, or
Right.
what we went through, or we're embarrassed by some of the things that we've experienced or that we went through.
Right.
You know, that was, for me, one of the issues that I had was I tried to protect everybody else. You know, I was the victim, but I was protecting the person that violated me or the person that wounded me. And as a result of me doing that, I didn't heal.
Right.
So that's where we're talking about it in the class. We're acknowledging, we're naming the wounds so that we can address it, so that
Right.
we can heal it.
And one thing that I think people don't really realize is that could be a childhood or even an adult thing that could put you stuck is death. You know, if you were that man that loved his mama and that person passes away, you may become stuck because now the person you loved the most ever in life is now gone, and or vice versa, the woman who loses their father, and what they tend to be suffering from is abandonment.
That's what I'm saying, that abandonment issue.
And they don't really think about it as being abandonment,
Right.
but they feel like the person they love the most has left them. They have abandoned them. Now I'm out here all alone by myself
Yep.
and don't know what to do.
And it's the same thing with the spouse. You know,
Exactly.
I dealt with
I
that,
had-
and I felt abandoned in that process.
I'm gonna be completely transparent. I went home. I went to my second home. I went to Detroit a couple of weeks ago, and I had a conversation with one of my cousins. And it's been like a little disconnect between us. And one of my cousins who passed away, before she passed away, she put something in my ear, made me kind of like understand something. So she said, the disconnect came because she felt that I abandoned her. And I think she said, you know, me and her dad were like the two men that she loved the most. And in the middle of a year's time, I relocated, and her father passed away.
Uh,
But she never said anything.
but that's again what I was saying to you.
Right.
We don't acknowledge it. She has not acknowledged it, so what she's doing is harboring in it.
Mm-hmm.
She's harboring what she's feeling, but that's a great example of what I meant by not acknowledging it.
Right.
So because she hasn't acknowledged it, she's holding on to some grudges,
Mm-hmm.
some bitterness and some anger towards you, as opposed to expressing what it is that she was feeling
Right.
instead of communicating to you.
Because if I don't know, then I can't do anything about it.
Yep.
And so when I presented it to her, then that's when the emotions came out. And I'm like, okay, you know, if this is what kept us from the connection because you felt a certain kind of way, I can't get mad at that. And see,
Right.
that's where people can understand too. You can't get mad at how somebody has experienced something. Even though in her mind she knows that me moving away was the best thing for me in my career at that time, you can't stop her from feeling that she's being abandoned by me.
Right.
And so I can't say, well, that's selfish, you know, but that's how she feel. And I think, and it goes back to timing is everything, because I've done the work. So now it makes sense to me. If she were, and we would have had that conversation back then, it would have made no sense to me.
Right.
I would have been irritated. And so now it's like, okay, well now I've done the work. I'm coaches are not understand the healing process. Okay, so he said, okay, I'm gonna use you to heal her and let her know it's okay. And I'm like, so yes, I was gonna try to be so that way it shows you how people get stuck. And a lot of times, like you said, men and women do not communicate it. So then therefore they stuck. They stuck at that moment. And so they don't know what to do.
Yep. I agree.
So make sure, okay, I got a message for you. The young lady said, make sure you post on my page about your masterclass.
Okay.
Okay. So continue, go about your masterclass. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, again, that's why I said it's important, and that's one of the things that we deal with in the masterclass is the acknowledgement of where or what the wound is. You know, where were you hurt? How were you hurt? Oh, there it is.
There you go. Right on time, ma'am.
There it is. But that's again why it's so important to address those things so that it does not keep you stuck and keep you, bound from walking in, who God created you to be and doing the things that your divine purpose, But those wounds do have potential to keep us stuck. It keeps us bitter. It keeps us angry. It keeps us just in a space or a place that we can't really grow. We can't really thrive.
Right.
We could be living life, but we're not really enjoying and thriving in life.
Right.
Because those wounds have got us stuck.
Okay. So for them who's interested, it's going to be online?
It's online. It's going to be through Zoom.
Okay.
The Zoom app, and classes normally be anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, depending on what it is that we're working on
Right.
that week. But it's typically 2 to 3 hours.
Now, when she say 2 to 3 hours, don't get paranoid. 2 or 3 hours is not
goes
really.
by
It goes
quick.
by fast because you're not going to really, especially if you have as Oprah would say, an aha moment, and then you want to address it and go through it.
Right.
It's going to take time if you have more than one person trying to do that.
Absolutely.
So the 2 hours or 3 hours it's going to go by fast because when that person has that aha moment, it might be something that you might learn from that as well. And so that's not nothing.
No. And I'll be completely honest and say it'll be a lot of tears. It'll be a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
It'll be various types of emotions. You can be happy, sad. You're gonna go through some feelings of anger. You're gonna go through some tears. But that's a part of the process.
Right.
But it's the most important part of the process.
Exactly. And and like with you, I think it's focusing on the women, and like I told you off air, I'm being forced to focus on the men, which was my initial intent. But people tell you no, you need to focus on the women because women gonna pay, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, the men, just like they need you, the man needs me. And when I saw it, when I dealt with the guy I'm working with, we're gonna collaborate together, and to see how he felt, and I'm like, and this is like the initial conversation, and it's like, if he feel this way, and this man was doing great things financially and career wise, but it's things that he never addressed. And then even the men who are doing great things financially or career wise still have
Relationship
struggles. They're not completely happy in that career, and they might want to do something different, but in fear, if they do what they're maybe called to do or what they're more passionate in doing, that they may lose that spouse,
Right.
because they got accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and they might not believe in what you're trying to do, and then that's a problem.
Right.
And so you got that. You got the men, that they don't know, they don't have a safe place to break apart,
Right.
because now men and women believe the stereotype that the men have to be tough at all times. They can't show no kind of vulnerability. So if your wife, your girlfriend, your family don't tell you all the time, man up, where do that man go
Right. True.
to feel safe, to fall apart, and have somebody help him put stuff back together? So that's where I'm being guided to. Just like I think what you're doing is amazing for what the women need to be guided to. So, because speak to the women who feel like they feel like when they try to take time for themselves, and they might have a kid, they might have a boyfriend or even a husband, or family situation going on, where they still need they feel like they gotta take care of everybody else and everything, and they feel like if they take time for themselves to work on themselves in any form of fashion, that they're being selfish.
And it's the complete opposite. You can't pour from an empty cup. Again, inner healing is self-care. You have to put it in the mind frame or the mindset as, I'm working on me to be a better me. But not only am I working on me to be a better me, to be a better wife, to be a better mother, to be a better friend. When you put it in that context, you have to be selfish with your time. You know what I mean? You can't be there for everybody else and then still suffering in the process. When you think about it in terms of, I'm doing this work so that I can be the best me, and in turn, by me doing that, I'm going to position myself to be that for everybody else.
Right.
But again, they say when you're going on the plane and you can't, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on anybody
Right.
else. That's the same thing. You have to set boundaries so that you can work on yourself for yourself.
And but to piggyback of what you said earlier, if those women who are in relationships, whether they dating somebody or they're married, if you take the time to work on yourself, when you will eventually be doing the boyfriend or the husband a service,
Right.
because then in turn, then they're going to want to start doing the work on themselves, and it could be a thing that you guys could do together. But and so the reality on that part is, the women do need to take the lead on that part.
Yeah, we do. I agree. I mean,
Because we follow y'all, because we want to please y'all. We want to please our women.
right.
And so if we watch y'all and we watch our women and they working on themselves to be better and be a better person, then we're going to want to follow suit.
Absolutely.
We're going to follow suit. And that's where I think where women don't see their power at.
Say it again.
That's where I think the women don't see where their power is at. Because at the end of the day, we want to please them. We want to make them happy. But you have to find a way to do the things in a way that you're not forcing it on us, but based on what you're doing, we're going to follow suit.
Absolutely. That's why I said winning him without the words. You don't even have to do anything.
You know, when you're trying to beat it down over their head, this is what you need to do.
It don't work.
You're going to lose them.
They from the show me stage.
Show me. You can't tell me, baby, you need to lose some weight because your health is not in order, but you're not doing it.
Right.
Because they gonna shut down like you can't tell me nothing.
Right.
Because you're not speaking, you're not living how you want to speak to me. You know, and like you said, men are show me. You don't have to beat us over here. You show us, and then we'll follow that lead. That's where the women really need to learn how to take control at. You know, then from there, the men could work on being their best self, and then they could do what they need to do as men. But that's what I think too. So, you know, so speak to the women about words and how powerful it is when they speak words to themselves, and how that affect how they see themselves, and words on how they speak to the men in their lives, and how that affect things.
I know. Well, I'll address the latter first. One of the things that I learned, you know, just over the course of my years as a wife, my mother would always say to me, "You get more with honey than you do with vinegar."
Right.
And a woman's tone has the potential to either calm a situation down or to build the flame, add fuel to the flame.
Right.
But it's in the tone, it's in the way you address your issues. You're not gonna, if you want somebody to change, you're not gonna come to them irate, hostile, and angry. If you want someone to change, your tone has to be calm. You have to have a certain demeanor, so that person doesn't, or that man does not become defensive and shut down.
Right.
So again, it's in your tone, it's in your body language. You know, I always say to my daughter, she hates when I say this, but your body language is still a language. You know, so if you're coming in there and you're throwing your weight around, they detect that too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Your
you have
body-
to be soft.
Your body language could give attitude.
Absolutely. It's a language. Your body language is a language. And if you're coming in there and your chest is pumped up and you're not going to get results that way. So I learned to kind of just be gentle in my speech.
Right.
Be gentle in how I communicate, especially if I want some change.
Right.
In terms of, what was the other question?
How they speak about themselves.
How they speak about themselves. Words have power. And one of the things that got me from a low place was affirmations. I had to reaffirm who I was because I dealt with emotional abuse. I dealt with, you know, someone saying things to me that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I agreed with it unconsciously.
Right.
And as a result of that, I had to rewire my thinking. And the way I did that was to reaffirm who I was.
Right.
Started using affirmations, you know, posting Post-it notes throughout my bathroom to reaffirm. In the days that I was feeling low, based off of where I was in my process, it allowed me, you know, to heal because now I'm speaking.
Right.
And as a result of my speaking, I started feeling, and then as a result of me feeling it, I really started believing it.
Right.
So it was the affirmations and how I spoke to myself really made a difference in that healing process.
Right, because when you start speaking a narrative about yourself that's in a negative sense, even though it might not be true, you're going to believe it. And that even goes into how in this society, society and media creates a narrative of how people see us.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes we hear that narrative so much that we tend to believe it ourselves. And so we have given the power to the society and the media of how we see ourselves, instead of, quieting the narrative and, taking, going back and saying, no, this is who I am.
Right.
And so that is very powerful. Mm-hmm. And I think people need to really realize that what you say is going to manifest to your reality. And what you allow to bring into your spirit is going to manifest your reality. So when you watch all this negative stuff on TV, and it's showing us in a negative light, then that becomes your reality. Then you pretend to believe this is who we are.
Right.
And so, another way to change that is to change what you allow yourself into your spirit.
And it's good you're saying that too, because my book that I have out, my book that I wrote or self-published over a year ago, called The Black Widow. Mm-hmm. That title came as a result of my circumstances. Mm-hmm. It was the title I gave to myself based off of what I dealt with. The Black Widow, every relationship that I got in, I felt like I killed it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That was a self-imposed label, which I call a lie that I gave to myself based on my circumstances. Mm-hmm. And again, the way I had to reprogram myself was I had to recondition my thinking. Mm-hmm. I am not my circumstances. It was not my fault that my first husband passed. It was not necessarily my fault that I ended up in the situation again and then divorced. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, yes, we have our language has the power to allow our circumstances to have that power by what it is that we're speaking, what it is that we're thinking. So that was the Black Widow was a self-imposed label that I gave myself as a result of my circumstances. But again, I had to cancel that. I had to cancel that assignment.
Right.
Because again, like I said, my intentions wasn't to be single for as long as I've been single, but again, my language had to change. Because if I kept thinking that I'm a Black Widow and I kept saying that I'm a Black Widow, I'm never going to attract anybody. I had to reprogram myself. I had to reprogram my language.
And with that being said, especially down here in Atlanta, when the women speak the language that, they believe the narratives of it's 20 women to one man, or they hear the thing on, it was a ABC talking about 60% of Black women going to be never married. If you allow that to penetrate into your spirit and you believe that narrative, then you're going to always believe that you're not going to never attract, because all you need is one.
All you need is
and
one.
You can't tell me you can't attract a man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the good man that's meant for you, as long as you do the work.
Right.
But if you let these different things speak into you, or you speak to yourself where there's no good men out here, then the good man won't come your way, because you don't know what a good man is, or you believe that there's none out there.
Right.
Or you believe, or you the woman who say all men cheat, then the one who may not cheat is not going to come your way, because you believe that he doesn't exist.
Right. So
all of that plays into what you're going to attract and what you're not going to attract. And I don't think, so what I believe in is speaking life, not death, into the situation.
Absolutely.
So you'll never hear me speak negatively about a woman, because if I talk negatively about them, then I'm going to say that all women are like this, then I will never attract that good woman.
Right.
Because I'm saying all these negative things about them. I don't have to acknowledge say the bad things about them.
True.
You just go ahead and say, okay, that person's not for me, but I'm gonna still love on her from a distance, but that's not who I am. And I just think if we start focusing on that and not trying to tear down the men or the men tear down the women, because that's another thing I guess the women say, that they feel like they're not wanted by our black men because they feel like the black man does not show the love to them. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, they're mirror images of the type of relationships that they're attracting. You know, why do you feel that? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just that one's kind of tough too. I've never really had that as an issue. Yeah, that one's a tough one.
But then again, you might not have that issue because the way maybe how you see yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How you see yourself and the love that you give out.
Right.
You know, may prevent you from having that feeling towards you because, from the energy that you gave me when I first met you, it was all love. So if you gave that to me or someone you just met, you can't tell me you give that same energy and more to the guys that you deal with.
Right.
As if someone like that, and if you truly love yourself enough, they gonna have no choice but to love you because if you love yourself enough, if they try to give you anything less than what you expect, you're gonna nip it under the bud.
Absolutely.
But see, I think.
But that came from doing the work, though.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we get so scared about how people perceive us, and I think when you have boundaries and expectations, it's easy to be labeled mean. I've been labeled that. I'm mean because I set boundary and expectations of how people gonna treat me, how you gonna talk to me, how you gonna act to me. And if you're going to try to do me anything outside of that, I'm gonna get you.
Absolutely.
And for someone to say a woman is mean because they have a boundary and you can't treat them this kind of way without a repercussion, that's not for you anyway. No. Because first of all, why are you doing anything to be disrespectful in the first place?
Right.
That's the question everybody need to ask themselves. If somebody is going to try you and try to see what they could get away with, you might as well just dip it in the butt. You to set the boundary, it's the boundary at that point.
Right.
And then if they try it again, you already know. It's that's the person for you because at this point, if you're supposed to be my friend, if you're supposed to be my woman or my wife, why would you try to say or do anything that's going to hurt me?
True.
Then I have to question your love for me.
True.
And that's what I think men and women got to think about. And that's very black and white. No, it's not black and white. It is black and white. That's how it is. If I say, Sheblis, I love you, but I do things to hurt you, do I really love you?
No.
Because love don't hurt.
Right. It's not supposed to.
It ain't supposed to. Not that type of love.
Right.
Now, it's going to be things where you might love somebody and they pass away. That's something different.
Right.
But if we end up in a relationship, if I truly love you, I'm not going to say or do anything purposefully to hurt you.
Right.
And you got to think about that.
Whew. Yeah, that one, that's heavy.
But see, I think these type of relationships are conversations that is not being had.
Absolutely. Like, I always hear people say, you teach people how to love you.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Absolutely.
You do. You're setting those boundaries. You're putting out there, what your expectations are, what you're willing to accept and not accept, what you're willing to deal with or not deal with. you know, we don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of setting those boundaries.
And see, I think this is where we are as coaches, we mess up at sometimes too because everybody want to do things individual. 'Cause, you know, they want their brand.
Right.
But sometimes when we trying to transform lives, especially with the women, you might need to do a collaboration. So because you could help them in certain areas of relationships,
Right.
but then you gonna need that man to say, okay,
No, I agree.
on this side. But we don't do that. You know, women in general don't go to their male friends, or do they even have a male friend they can talk to
True.
to say, talk to and be open to hearing his perspective of why we do what we do.
And
Say-
vice versa.
And vice versa. I got a friend that would tell me, okay, you tripping right. You tripping right. And I have to accept it. But in the same thing, they come to me, I'm like, you're wrong. If a man tells you, I feel this way, and you just ignore it, then you tell him that how he feels is not important. And that's, ladies, that's one of the things that men feel, that their feelings is not important to you all.
Right.
And so that's something that women have to also look at too, is, is it all about them, or do they really care about the feelings of the man that they're with?
True.
Because, if you care, then, are you concerned about how his day went? The stress that he got going on at his job. Can he feel comfortable enough to tell you these type of things?
Back to that whole basis of communication again.
Right.
It's the communication.
And so I just think these type of conversations is needed because, besides reading the comments, the men and the women are enjoying this conversation because they seeing two people having a dialogue, and we both bringing truth from our perspectives. And we both understand the same thing about why it's so important to heal. Because, even for men, if you don't heal from your past relationships, you're going to still attract the same thing. Or, like, I'll be authentic. I became emotionally unavailable. And it wasn't because of relationship. It was because of a situation that happened. And this is how powerful it could be. When I was younger, this young lady liked me, and I was dating somebody else. And the young lady who liked me, we worked together. So since I wouldn't give her the time of day that she wanted from me, she accused me of sexual harassment. So then, therefore, my mindset was, here I am, a black man who we already feel like we the lowest on the totem pole because how people treat us.
Right.
I did everything I was supposed to do. Went to school, got my degree, got this nice job, and because I don't want you, you're gonna try to take all that away from me.
Wow.
So then my trust for women went away. I didn't trust them.
Wow.
So I still loved them. I still want to have that interaction with them, but I was always gonna be guarded because until I dealt with that, and until I released that, I was gonna never attract anybody. Everybody I will attract would be somebody I could not have.
Right.
Whether somebody, they might have somebody, or they might have been going through a divorce, or they had a divorce and they not ready to have what I might want.
Right.
But then again, it was perfect for me at the time because I wasn't really available emotionally.
That's good.
And so, thank you. So now that we get to do work, and and a lot of times people have to understand, you may be mentally, you may have released it, but in that heart,
Yeah, that's another aspect of it.
you haven't released it. And until you release it in your heart and fully let it go, it's still there. That's what I had to learn. I'm like, I thought I had let that go. And then I did the spiritual thing, and that's what came up. And I'm like, dang, that was like years ago. But it was like, but that's why you haven't been where you at, because you are not available.
Yeah, yep. That's why I tell you all the time, inner healing is so important, because
Right.
again, it releases you from things that you once suppressed, so deep that you may not even remember.
Right.
But it's important to go through it, because you don't want it to be a hindrance.
Right.
And you see how for you it was a hindrance of what you went through emotionally. It wouldn't allow you to. You were checked out.
Right.
You couldn't get emotionally attached to something, to someone based off of something that someone else did to you. And again, that was a hindrance. It hindered you from what? Being fully engaged in another relationship,
Yeah.
expressing yourself emotionally
Right.
because of that hurt. Wow. That's what happens when you don't heal them soul wounds.
Right.
That's an example.
And I felt I had to say that, because then for me and everyone who are watching, understand the process. So now I have released it. So now I attract different things, different women
Right.
to me, because now I'm more open. Before I was closed off, and certain situations now, and a lot of things that you gotta do in relationships. Not all, but there are sexual relationships, but it could be relationships with friends or family members that you have an issue with. Those, if you don't heal those issues, that's going to prevent you as well.
Yes.
So when you try to, even with me and my cousin, that healing was not just for her. It was for me too, because that situation, that disconnect was also preventing me from getting everything I needed to get. So now it's like you gotta do things, other people, you might think in your ego and say, well, why am I gonna give her the satisfaction? But it's not always about that person.
Right.
It's about you being healed as well.
Yes. Which is more important.
Which is more important. So yeah. So how can they get your book, The Black Widow?
Black Widow is on Amazon. But if anybody would like a signed copy, I do have copies as well. You can go to the website. It's Chablis, CHABLIS underscore B. I mean, not underscore. That's my Instagram. But it's Chablis, BG.com, and it's on the store. They can purchase it through there. Or they can go on Amazon, type in Black Widow, or type in my name, Chablis Butler Gordon, and it should come up on Amazon. Or you can, hit my social media, which is Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I'm all listed as Chablis, CHABLIS underscore BG. And, you can DM me or message me, and I can get copies out to them as well.
Okay. So you told me, and before I got started, you was going to be doing a conference.
Oh yes, in February I'll be speaking at the Godly Wife Conference, but it's in Texas, and it's titled "I Survived It." Again, I survived childhood wounds. I survived the death of a spouse. I was a widow at 30. I survived divorce. I survived bankruptcy. I survived being bankrupt, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I survived all of that. And I'm surviving single parenting to 3 children, 1 in college and 1 in high school and 1 in elementary. It's been a journey, but one that I can say I'm glad for that journey, because again, every trial, every tribulation that I've gone through, it made me who I am today. Stronger, wiser, better.
Right, and I think I try to tell people who I coach or people I can run across is that's the question you need to ask. Whatever situation you're going through, good, bad, or indifferent, you ask God, what was I supposed to learn from this?
What's the lesson in it?
What's the lesson in it? So it's never why me, it's why not
not me?
you. So what is I supposed to learn from this?
Yes.
So even like and I tell this, people know my situation where I got sick, I got bit by a poisonous spider, and the whole entire time I was in the hospital, I was in a positive mindset because it was my time to figure out what I supposed to have learned from this. And what I learned was that he wanted time for me to have one-on-one therapy with him. So because he wanted me, because I was trying to do everything my way,
Yes.
business wise, and where I wanted to go, and he like, no, I don't want you to go that way. So since you're not gonna be behaving, so I'm gonna put you down for a second, so we can reestablish the journey in which you want to go.
Absolutely.
And now that I've been a little bit more, obedient and legal, not just follow his guidance instead of trying to be in control of the entire thing, I see where it's going. And the door's open because instead of me trying to force it open, it's opening it to me because I'm doing what he asked me to do.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So that's for y'all as well. So, we're gonna have to have conversations after this
Oh, definitely.
because based on the feedback, I'm gonna have to have you back on again.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I
Awesome.
think next time I want to do it to where it's like a panel,
Okay.
men and women, so we can have that type of conversation, not just with me and you. So maybe find another female, and then maybe 2 other guys outside of me, and let's have that kind of conversation.
No, because I think it's definitely something that needs to be had, that dialogue, to get the male perspective and that female perspective.
Right.
I agree.
Right, and then like I said, I'm waiting on you to do your thing with the ladies. I come in and talk to them, and so we can make this happen. So before before I go, what I always like you to do is to give you a chance to say to the audience wherever is on your spirit. It don't have to be about your master class. It could be wherever you feel led to speak about at this present moment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Wow. I guess for me, what I want to just reiterate, the importance of being present to yourself. You can be present for everybody else. You can be everything to everybody else. But it's important to make sure that you refuel, and rebuild yourself. You really can't make a mark in this world, in this life, can't take the opportunities that are coming to you if you are depleted. It's important to make sure that you refill your cup so that you aren't dry, that you're not empty, so that you can really be who God has created you to be without the hindrances. And now I'll go right back into saying how important it is to heal yourself from those emotional wounds, from the trauma, from the abuse, from anything that has hurt you, so that it can no longer hinder you in your walk with God, in your purpose, and who He created and called you to be and do in this world. It is important to make sure that you can do it without having to worry about the past, without having to worry about are you good enough? Because when you realize you start refueling yourself and putting back with what it is that you're putting out. In that same process, you're rebuilding yourself. You're increasing your confidence. You're increasing your value, your worth. So it's important to make sure that you take time for you, and whatever that looks like. It could be journaling. It could be reading, but not reading just to reading the words on the paper, but reading, making it, applying it, and doing that work. Whatever it is that you're reading about, apply it.
Right.
Don't just read the words that's on the paper. Instead of always worrying about fixing up and adorning the outside, make sure that you clean up and fix up and heal up the inner me.
Right. Because the inner you is gonna be more attractive to the person than the outer you.
Yep.
Well, I thank you, ma'am. So what I would like to say is this: we need to be more intentional about what we do and what we say. You know, your question before you do something or before you say something is your question should be to yourself: what's my intentions about doing this? What's my intentions by saying this? You should be intentionally spending time with yourself to becoming a better whole person, because when you become whole you become more confident in who you are and whose you are. And then when you become more confident in who you are and whose you are, you no longer seek validation through other people.
Ooh, that's good.
You know, the problem I see nowadays is through all of us is we seek validation. We need people to validate our existence, and like they that it means something. You know, if you are already confident in who you are and you don't need validation because you are secure in who you are, you know what you're doing is worth what you're doing. So, you know, a lot of times I don't promote everything I do, because a lot of times if I do, I gotta ask myself, am I seeking validation? Am I seeking that pat on the back? Because I want somebody to make me feel good about
Right.
myself and about what I'm doing. So you gotta ask yourself, you know, so work on yourself to get the confidence level to where you no longer need to seek validation of your self-worth through other people, because you already know your self-worth is.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, my name is Kevin Thornton, the Wellness Architect. You have enjoyed a great show with my friend, Miss Sablee. Be great, be you, be authentic, and we are out. Peace.